Okay, now let's look at this example as well. So, looking at this question, you could see that this one is a bit different from what we did previously. Now, in this, those ones that we did in the previous lesson, um, we looked at the percentage increased separately from percentage decrease. But looking at this one, both percentage increase and decrease are combined in one question. But that doesn't make the question so difficult. Very simple. All right. Only if you can remember what we did. If only you remember the concept of decreasing and increasing in percentage. And the same principle we applied in the previous lesson, we are going to do the same here. So this doesn't make the question so difficult. All right. So in this question, it says a population of 20,000 was increased by 12% in the first year and decreased by 5% at the end of the second year. So for this one, we are asked to find the actual population in the beginning of the second year and at the end of the second year. So this makes it very easy. It is very easy. If you can recall what we did in the previous lesson, we looked at two different ways of dealing with such questions. So without wasting my time, let's dive into this question and see how we can find our answers to the various questions. So let me begin with my solution. Great. Now, before you can even tackle this question, you need to know your initial population. Looking at the question, uh, for the first sentence, you see that it says a population of 20,000 was increased by 12% in the first year. So, we need to identify our initial population. Now, once we have 20,000, then that gives us what our initial population. Before we can even find the population in the beginning of the second year, we need to look out for the population at the end of the first year. But how do we do that? Remember, in our previous lesson, when we talked about the two ways of dealing with such examples, um, in the first method, we said that let's say you are given a let's say you are given a quantity and you are asked to increase it by let's say b percent. You are given a quantity and are asked to increase it by b percent. Remember, we said that to get the new value or the new amount, or that you do it. So we said that the new amount or value can be solved as, or we can get it as, you look for this value here. What is the b? So you add it to 100 because we are doing increasing. We are increasing. So we add it to the 100 and divide the whole solution by 100 again and multiply by the original or the actual quantity, which is my a. All right. Great. So my a is here. That's wonderful. Okay, good. That is how we solved most of the examples we did in our previous lesson, and that is what we are going to employ here. So based on that, we need to identify what is our A and what is our B. So we say that our B is the initial value and our B is the amount given in percentage. So let's look at this. In the question, we are given 20,000. So that is what our initial population, and we are given what 12%. Since we are dealing with what increasing, then we said it was increased by 12%. For that matter, the 12 becomes what my B. Looking at this, okay. So I will only just do what substitution. So I'm going to find what population at the end of the first year. So that will be what the new value. So the new value will be what the population at the end of the first year, since we know the initial one. So I only write what 100 plus my b, which is the 12, and divide all of them by what 100 and multiply by the actual value, the actual population. That is the initial population, which is 20,000. All right. Great. So that is what we are going to do. Okay. So since we have this, we have two zeros here. I can cross this two zeros. Remember not to cross this zero with these zeros, because if you do that, then there will be a problem for you, because we are adding this to this. So if you do this, it is totally what wrong. But you can cross this out, because we are multiplying this by that. Okay. All right. So once you understand it that way, then we are good to go. Now let's move on. Since we cross this out, we then have um 112 all divided by 1 times 200. Great. 200. All right. Good. So let's find our total answer. What will be our total population for this, or at the end of the first year? So 112 times 200 is going to give me 22,400. So 22,400 becomes the population at the end of the first year, when it was increased by 12%. All right, good. Now, how do I get the first answer? Okay, in the beginning of the second year. Note that population at the end of the first year becomes the population at in the beginning of the second year. All right, yes, because at the end of the first year, when the first year ends, we move on to the next year, which is the second year. When we are going to start with the population, definitely we are going to start from where we ended. And since we ended at 22,000, then beginning, we start with that particular number of people. So we can easily conclude that. So you can see that, therefore, so that will be my A rather. So population, population in the beginning, population in the beginning of the second year is 22,400. So that gives me a population in the beginning of the second year. Now, how do we get population at the end of the second year? So getting population at the end of the second year becomes easy, since we know the one at the or in the beginning. Now, once we know that, then that becomes what our initial population in the second year. Okay, so this time we are going to use 22,400 as our initial population in the second year. Okay, and the same way we did the first one, we are using the same principle. Okay, all right. If that is the case, now let's get back to the question. So the question says, and it was decreased by what 5%. Okay, it means that at the end of the second year, we realize that the total number of people in that community has been what reduced by what percentage? 5%. And how do we do that? We do the same thing. Now you know that the first one, because we were increasing, or it was increased, we added. So this time, because it is going to be reduced, or we are going to decrease it, then we are going to find the difference, meaning we are going to subtract the 5% from the 100 and divide by 100. So that is the case. Then let me write my B, that is what? Population at the end of the second year. And that is given as what? So I'm going to write my 100 minus 5 because we are saying it was reduced. So I will subtract 5 from it, all divided by 100 times the total, or the initial population. And what is the initial population? This is my initial population. That is 22,400. Okay, that's great. Since we have this, we can also cross this and cross these two zeros. Remember once again that I said do not cross this with that, else there will be trouble for you. Okay, all right. So once we have this, then I can write this as what? 95 divided by 1 times 224. Good. Now, when you multiply this by that and divide by 1, then you are getting what? 21,280. Great. So it means that the initial population, which was 22,400, has been reduced to 21,280. And in what percentage? 5%. It has been reduced by 5%. Have you gotten the point? Good. So questions like this, very, very what? Easy and simple. If you understand the concept of increasing and decreasing in percentage, then the work becomes very easy for you. Good. So once we know that this is how we go about it, so whatever question that will be given to you, you should be able to know how to go about it. All right. So my dear students, I will urge each and everyone to solve more examples. Now, in our next lesson, we are going to look at more examples. I will advise my students that whenever you solve questions, if you have any difficulties, don't hesitate. You can contact me and I will guide you so that you know how to move on in your education. Okay, all right. Now, this is Mazuris TV. I'm your facilitator, Evans Okay. Don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like and share. See you next time. Thank you.